Hi guys, I'm Laura from Braintree Cooperative Grocery, and I am here today bringing you a little mini series of videos along with the Veterans Memorial Library about different herb and spice blends and how you can use them and just ways to be maybe a little more adventurous with some of your flavor combinations. So the one that we're going to talk about today is Garam Masala, and that is a South Asian blend. I'm going to show you here because I think it'll focus better if I open the jar, of different spices. And by South Asian, we're talking like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and that's kind of the part of the world where you'll find this most commonly. It actually has a lot of characteristics that are similar to something like pumpkin pie spice, with more of a savory kick to it. So you don't want to be afraid of this just because you maybe haven't worked with it a lot. It's going to have a lot of flavors in it that you'll be surprisingly comfortable with. It's like chili powder or a 5-spice blend or a seasoned salt, or again like pumpkin pie spice. This is a blend. It's got certain ingredients that you'll commonly find in it, but it'll be different from company to company, region to region, person to person if you're making your own blends. So while you will find some variation, the suggestions that I'm going to give you today you can use with most versions of the Garam Masala blend that you will find. So I'm going to show you some of the things that will commonly be in Garam Masala. I don't have examples of all of them in my cupboard, but I'll show you the ones that I do have. So something that you're going to see a lot would be cloves. So these are whole cloves. I should have opened the jar before. There we go. My cupboards are cold, so it shrinks when I bring it out. So there you go. Those are whole cloves. They're wonderfully aromatic. I wish I could let you guys smell this. You'll see my beautiful labeling system there. It's just written on with masking tape, but they're pretty obvious right when you look through the jar, so it doesn't matter if the label's not fancy. So again, this is where you're going to see those similar notes to something like pumpkin pie spice. Another thing that is very, very common, almost universal in Garam Masala blends, are cinnamon sticks. Usually when you're making Garam Masala from scratch, you will be using whole spices. So that's why I'm kind of showing you these as an example. In addition to that, something else you'll see a lot is cardamom. So whole cardamom pods. This is a wonderful, beautifully aromatic thing. If you've never used cardamom buy it like whole, this is what it looks like. A lot of times people will buy it as powder, and it's common in cookies and dessert recipes. Oh, it smells so good. This is also one of the things that gives most of the chai blends that people will be familiar with their aromatic kind of notes, and really this is what you smell a lot of the time when you're smelling chai. Another thing that you will see, because Garam Masala literally means like hot or warming spices, is you will sometimes see chilies in there. I just keep opening these so you guys get a better visual. There we go. So these are cayenne that I dried from my garden, but really any kind of hot chili would work. Though not all Garam Masala is hot. And the one that I'm going to talk about today, the one that we carry at Braintree from Frontier Co-op, is not a spicy one. It instead has, and you can't see this jar at all, so peppercorns. If I can show you those without dropping them. It's typically going to be, I just threw peppercorns everywhere. It's typically going to be black pepper that you would see, rather than like a smoked pepper blend like this one. These are just kind of what I had for the visual aid. But black peppercorns. So that's where you'll get that warming element, is like the cinnamon and the cloves and the peppercorn or the chili is really what's making it warming and flavorful. Another thing, once you start to get into the savory, is, let's see, I guess I didn't bring out the cumin because cumin's just kind of a brownish yellow powder, but that's really common. That gives a nice savory flavor. And then a lot of them will also have bay leaves. This is another thing that'll give you a savory element. This one, I need to refill this jar. This one's been in there a little while, so It's just one of the little tiny ones that's left, but you could use nice big bay leaves, or it could be a good use if, like me, you often break a few and have pieces in the bottom of your jar. If you wanted to make garam masala, that'd be a great way to use up some of the pieces that you might have left. Fennel is also a very common ingredient in garam masala. It's not in the blend that we carry, but you'll see it quite often. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any. Oh, mace. Mace and nutmeg. So mace, if you're not familiar with it, is basically the skin from outside of the nutmeg. It has its own unique flavor and is sold as a separate spice. So you may see one or both of those, mace and nutmeg, in a blend as well. And then coriander, which is the seed of the cilantro plant, is also very commonly found in garam masala. That's another sort of herbaceous, slightly savory note that you'll find in there. Somewhat less commonly, you might find things like star anise, occasionally would be used, or just regionally, people might use other kinds of fresh herbs. Sometimes it's mixed into a paste rather than a powder. Occasionally you'll see things like onions and garlic, though it's not as common in commercial blends. So the one that we carry, the one here that I showed you from Frontier Co-op, right there. I wish I could get this to focus better for you guys. Well, you can picture it. It's a lovely little powder. Again, it looks kind of similar to a pumpkin pie spice, but this one contains cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, cumin, black pepper, and coriander. So it's primarily a spiced blend, which is what reminds me so much of the pumpkin pie flavor, but it has those little nuances of the savory flavor, the cumin and the coriander, that give it more depth and make it kind of interesting, and that's why you can use it in so many different cooking applications. So I'm going to give you a couple of different suggestions of ways you can use this, and then I'm going to give you a recipe. The recipe will also be available on our website if you're somebody who prefers to read it or see all the ingredients listed out rather than just have somebody kind of speak it to you. So some of the ways that you can use it is in curry instead of curry powder. In a curry recipe, you could substitute garam masala for a different flavor. You could also use it along with curry powder. I make some different Moroccan inspired dishes that will use both. They complement each other well, especially if you have a more hot and spicy curry with the more nuanced, spiced kind of garam masala flavor. Great with beans and lentils, making a dal type of a dish. It's good in soups. Like I just said, some of the Moroccan ones, there's a stew that I like to make that includes it. It works very well with chicken. You'll find a lot of chicken recipes that will require it. Ground meat, if you want to make like a spiced meatball or stuffing for something like a samosa, you could use garam masala for that. Also, speaking of samosas, you could use it with potatoes if you wanted to make a vegetable stuffing for something like that, or even toss and roast vegetables like potatoes and carrots in it. It's also very good with cauliflower. You can again roast that, you could steam it and then toss it in the garam masala. Because it has a very delicate kind of flavor balance, you can add it towards the end of cooking to get even more oomph out of it. So if you're going to roast veggies, for example, you might roast them first, sprinkle on the garam masala after, and then toss it and serve it. One other thing I'm going to mention real quickly is if you do want to make your own, there's typically a toasting element involved. So what you would do is you would take your whole spices, like your chilies and your cloves and your bay leaves and stuff, and your cinnamon sticks. You would break them into smallish pieces and then toast them in a heavy frying pan just until you really start to get a fragrant smell from them. And then you would go ahead and pulverize them in a spice grinder to get your garam masala powder. And that's going to give you the most intense flavor, is if you kind of, mix it up and toast it and grind it right before you use it. But you could also be like me and just have a jar of it in the cupboard, which is a great time saver. But it is nice sometimes to try making these things the traditional way, at least once, just to see what you think. And when you do it that way, it also gives you the benefit that you can customize it to exactly what you like. So say you want more cardamom in yours, or more cumin, or you want a hotter, spicier blend than you can get otherwise, and you might add extra chilies. So you can just tweak it more when you make it yourself. Okay, so into the recipe that I'm going to share with you guys. This is not a traditional garam masala including recipe. It's just a really simple way to learn the flavor, because I think a lot of times when you're experimenting with a new herb or spice, you want to learn what it brings to a dish on its own so that you can start pairing it with other things with more confidence. So the recipe that I came up with only has 4 ingredients, very simple, and this is basically a pancake recipe. So you're going to roast a large sweet potato, or a small sweet potato if you don't think you want to make a lot of this. It's kind of flexible that way. I just cut it in half and bake it at 375 until it's soft, and then you can just slide the skin right off and smush up the inside. You can do it however you like. You could peel it and boil it. You could buy canned sweet potato so long as it doesn't have extra sweetener added. But at any rate, you want to get yourself some cooked sweet potato. Now for every cup of sweet potato, you want 2 eggs, or the equivalent amount of egg replacer. You want a heaping half teaspoon of garam masala, and then you want 2 tablespoons of flour. You can skip the flour, but it makes the pancakes harder to flip. So if you're somebody who, like me, for whatever reason, smushes pancakes when they flip them, I suggest putting the flour in. If you have an absolutely fantastic flipping style and you can trust yourself to do it, feel free to leave the flour out, and then you'll have a gluten-free pancake. It's just more delicate, and you'll need to let each side cook more before you flip it. So anyway, you take those ingredients for, again, 1 cup of sweet potatoes, the equivalent of 2 eggs, a heaping half teaspoon of the garam masala, and the 2 tablespoons of flour. You're going to just smush that, whisk it, whatever you got to do in a bowl to mix it all together. I use a potato masher a lot of the time because it really mashes the sweet potato well, and it mixes everything else in until it's pretty smooth. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth, but pretty smooth. And then you are going to cook those in a pan the same way you would any other pancake. When they're done, you can either serve them sweet or savory. Sweet, just go ahead and throw some butter and maple syrup on top and enjoy. They're actually really good that way. Or if you want to go savory and try that aspect of both the sweet potato and the garam masala, I served it with some greens, just sauteed and mixed with rice, and then I did a yogurt and cilantro sauce over the top. So I just took some plain unflavored yogurt and mixed in some chopped cilantro and garlic to taste, and drizzled that over the top. And that would be a savory application you could use these for. So they can either be a breakfast or a dinner, or a breakfast for dinner, or vice versa. So that's a really simple way to try out the garam masala. And as always, anytime you're trying a new seasoning blend, I suggest just taking a little bit, putting it in your mouth, and kind of breathing and smushing it around and understanding what those flavors are. Because when you know what it really tastes like by itself, you'll know better what you're going to like it in. So there you go. That was a little bit long, but I hope you stuck with me and that you are going to be trying out this wonderful new spice blend. And again, we are partnering with this through the library, and if you reach out to them, I think we will have some links in the comments. They can actually get you a sample of this along with the recipe that you can use and try out in your own kitchen. I'd love to know what you think. All right, everybody have a great day and have fun cooking.